Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks Best Country, 105.1 The Bull. It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Colton's Steakhouse, Thompson Sales, and Deadeye Gun and Pawn in Sparta. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I'm Scott Puryear. As always, big thank you to you, the viewer and listener, for tuning in, whether you're the podcast version or our video version. Always love talking sports for people of the Ozarks and beyond. And today we're going to talk about a subject that was at least near and dear to the heart of Ozarkers, and maybe has slipped just a little bit in that regard because of a very odd circumstance. But our special guest is Matt Derrick. He's the editor, publisher, chief content creator for ChiefsDigest.com. He's a regular with Kansas City media when it comes to talking about the Chiefs, radio, TV, you name it. Matt Derrick talks about it if it involves the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a Hillcrest High School grad, and in 1990 came out of that great HTV program that Coach Dave Davis has produced over there for years. And Matt, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate it, Scott. Yeah, I was year one, so they've come a long way since my day.
Yeah.
Probably do a little bit better journalism. But I will say this, I'm fortunate enough that I'm looking at it right now. I have it on my desk to remind me. I have best news story of 1990 for HTV magazine. So I always have that to hang my hat on.
Nice. What was the story about?
It was a story that a woman and Heather Redden and I did together on the separation of church and state. Back then there was a big push we had a group in the school that was doing prayer in school. And we did a story on just, whether it was legal, whether it wasn't, and what teachers, students, and theologians and people around Springfield thought about it. So turned out pretty well and won the first year's best news story. So I'll take
Congratulations.
it.
Yeah, that's the thing about Dave Davis is he wasn't afraid to tackle the hot button topics. I like to deal in the toy world of sports, where everything's not quite as heavy as that. Davis, he took you guys places that a lot of teachers wouldn't take. And I think Dave, actually, I'd call him the Yoda of high school journalism here in the Ozarks, but I think he's doing the same thing now for Greenwood Laboratory Schools, retired from SPS and doing a great job getting their program started. So where did you go on to college after Hillcrest?
I went to Southwest Missouri State, but always going to be SMS to me. For 2 years, and then transferred to Missouri and graduated from the journalism school at Mizzou after another 2 years. So I feel like I got the best of both worlds. I managed to one of my other greatest accomplishments. I managed to graduate from both schools with exactly 64 credit hours.
Wow!
So being able to get through with the minimum number of credit hours from both schools as a transfer, I felt like it was a real accomplishment.
That was a nice savings on the old financial side of it too for the parents, I'm sure there, but which is always a plus. As a parent of two college students now, I wish mine would have that ability to say, "Oh, I can do this in 4 years." That would be awesome. But how did you get your start with Chiefs Digest and then getting into the Kansas City media market?
Yeah, I took the most about winding road you could possibly get here because I graduated obviously from journalism and started out in sales. Didn't like that at all. Kind of started back into journalism a little bit, but quickly translated into the public relations. And I was actually working public relations for Time Warner Cable in Kansas City. We had the Metro Sports, which is a big sports channel in Kansas City. And I handled their public relations. And one of the people that worked there covering the Chiefs was a guy named Herbie Teope. Herbie left Metro Sports, and when he left, he wanted to start Chiefs Digest. I had just left Metro Sports as well, and Time Warner Cable, and was on my own. doing freelance, and I helped him launch Chiefs Digest. I was just the PR guy, the website guy. I wrote a few things just to kind of get back into sports a little bit. And in 2016, he took a job in New Orleans to go cover the Saints for NOLA.com, and I took over Chiefs Digest. And so it was a long journey back from I wanted to go into sports journalism when I was a kid. So I wanted to do it as I was in college. I got detoured, but eventually made my way back, Scott. So I took the exact opposite path that most everybody takes in journalism, because it seems like these days everybody's leaving journalism to go into public relations.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing a great job with it. And wanted to bring you on because I went into a Springfield retail outlet store a couple of days ago and was walking through, and I saw a clearance rack of Chiefs memorabilia and jerseys with a Mahomes and a Kelsey jersey on it under the clearance rack. And I'm just sitting here thinking, what alternate universe do we live in now? TV stations are no longer holding local businesses hostage with Super Bowl packages involving the Chiefs and postseason games and 6-11 and having Gardner Minshew and Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever it was, quarterback in the Chiefs down the stretch, not on anybody's bingo card. And I thought I need to get Matt Derrick on here for the Chiefs fans who are kind of wandering aimlessly in the wilderness here in this January. No parties to go to, no nothing. What the heck is going on? And are the Chiefs, as we know them, done?
I'm kind of one of those people, Scott. I've been wandering around trying to figure out what to do with my January since usually I'm booked. So I'm finding out there's lots of things apparently going on in January I didn't know about. I certainly don't think that the Chiefs are over. You look at this team, and I get a lot of Chiefs fans, certainly were frustrated with some of the things that they heard from this team and from Andy Reid. I know last night I was doing my live stream and got the feedback from because there's some Chiefs fans that are like, hey, we are done. We need to go in a different direction. They feel like things need to be freshened up, and they were tired of hearing, you know what, this team is just a tick off, that they just need to clean some things up and they're going to be okay. 6-11, probably more than just a couple of things that are a tick off. And I do think there's some acknowledgement of that. I think it was, as you know, there's always a little bit of smoothing out in public that coaches are going to do. And, behind the scenes, they feel differently. And I think that's the case in this situation. Brett Veach, to his credit, says regularly that, you're never as good as you think you are. And he said that when they were 15-2 last year, going to the Super Bowl. And he said it again this year, you're never as bad as you think you are, so he's at least taken that middle course. And I do think that you're going to see some significant changes this offseason. There's going to be some changes on the coaching staff we know about already. They're going to have to make some tough decisions on the players' personnel side too. So I don't think it's going to be business as usual. And that's another reason why I think that this team still has life in it. As long as you've got Patrick Mahomes, and I think as long as you got Andy Reid, as long as Patrick's healthy, you're going to be in a position to win a championship pretty much every single year.
I think, there's no denying the fact that we've been spoiled, with what the Chiefs have done and the good times. And I guess it suggests maybe people go be a Browns or a Jets or a Raiders fan for a year and then come back and see if they appreciate things more often. But a lot of things I wanted to address with you because you're in the know, you're inside with what's going on in the market up there. And I guess, first of all, when Art and Ned and I talk on the radio show about the Chiefs, our understanding is there's a pretty bad salary cap situation for this Chiefs team this offseason. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, if you look at the numbers that you'll see on some of the websites, and they're usually pretty good estimates, the Chiefs are probably somewhere in about a 66 to 72 million over the cap. And I'm not one that's going to be the one to tell you that the salary cap is imaginary, but pliable and manageable. Yeah, it can be. Patrick Mahomes has a $78 million cap number for next year. And, you can move quite a bit of that around. You could restructure that contract to get most of the way back under the cap between him and, Juwan Taylor has got a $27 million cap number. He's not going to be back. The Chiefs are going to release him. And so you get some money back there. Between those two moves alone, you can pretty much get back to even. And then they've got some other big name players with big contracts that they can either restructure or move on from. I still think Chris Jones is going to be a part of this team. Obviously, the core of some of your big, highly paid players, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, George Karlaftis, they're not going anywhere. But, you've got a tough decision about Trent McDuffie that, could net you back some draft picks and maybe get you some cap savings. There's a few other players too. I mean, it's pretty easy that if you wanted to, you could carve out anywhere from probably $20 to $30 million in cap space for this team going into free agency. It's just going to be hard. I mean, there's going to be some tough decisions, and McDuffie would be one of them. A veteran like Mike Dana being around would be one of them. So there's some tough decisions for this team to make, but I don't get too scared about the cap number because, like I said, it's manageable. There's things that they can do, but I will say one thing with Patrick's cap number in particular, obviously with his injury, and this was going to be a year where you probably just tore up his contract and rewrote it rather than just move money around and do a simple restructure. I don't know if your Chiefs are going to do that right now because I think you may want to see how he comes out of this surgery, what he looks like on the other side before you kind of rebuild that 10 to 12-year template that you have for Patrick Mahomes.
He seems to always be a guy that gets the big picture and realizes that if he restructures, it makes everybody around him better, which makes him better. Watching him this year, I don't know how he keeps from yelling at some offensive linemen from time to time. I would probably lose it 3 or 4 times a game at the guys, just ask them to please block someone. Could you sense any additional or extra level of frustration from him from that realization that, his line, it was banged up, but they just weren't very good either?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing to Patrick's credit, and you noted it, which is that he's an accountability guy. So he does both ways. I mean, he is not afraid to get into his guys when they're not making plays or he needs more out of them. And conversely, the reason why they love playing with him is that he's also the first guy to celebrate with them and to congratulate them and pat them on the back. So they endure that. I mean, they know that Patrick is going to be the one to build them up, but he might have to tear them down every once in a while too. And you did see, I think, some signs of frustration at times with the play on the field this year more than maybe you've seen in the past. And, I think part of it's just because I think he knows that this team could and should have played better. I mean, especially the offensive line. I think you look at the individual talent that they have at each one of those positions. And when they had their true starting line out there, which, unfortunately for them, for some different circumstances, they didn't have most of the season. But when they have their starting line out there, I think that's a really good starting 5. But I do agree that I don't think that they got the most out of them as a unit in 2025. And that's something that they've got to work on in this offseason. And I think that goes back to more than just motivation. It goes back to game planning, scheming, execution, coaching, all of the above.
You mentioned coaching changes for next year. What positions do you think they'll target and what moves do you expect?
Well, we do know one on the offensive side already. Connor Embry, the wide receivers coach, won't be back. There's a couple of guys on the defensive side. Alex Whittingham was defensive assistant. He's following his dad up to Michigan to be a coach up there. I know there's a few other assistants that are looking at jobs elsewhere. And with Matt Nagy being a candidate for a head coaching job and possibility that he even leaves for another offensive coordinator head job. His contract is up. And, with 9 jobs and head coaching jobs open around the NFL, I think he's probably going to get one of those. But on the other side of it, if he doesn't, that's kind of a message that if Matt Nagy wants to be a head coach, he probably needs to get away from Andy Reid again and be able to prove himself as his own guy as an offensive coordinator. So I wouldn't be surprised if he left for another OC job elsewhere. That will change things too. I mean, if Matt Nagy leaves, then whomever comes in as the offensive coordinator, Andy Reid's going to give them probably more voice in the coaching staff on the offensive side than he's probably given his coordinators in the past, just because I think Andy Reid's at that point in his career where he's going to start kind of shifting those duties and responsibilities to others because he knows that his end is closer than it's ever been before.
I get the impression from maybe the pulse of the Chiefs fans that they're not going to be upset to see Nagy leave. What are your thoughts on the job he's done, particularly this last year?
Yeah, I think in general, Matt's been a really good offensive coordinator. The OC job for Andy Reid is a thankless job because you get none of the credit when things go well, and you get all of the blame when things go badly. And the reality of it is that, as Andy Reid has told you as many times, he has 51% control. So nothing happens on that field offensively that isn't with Andy Reid's okay. And even if Matt Nagy is calling the plays and has maybe a bigger voice than he's had in the past, it's just not the same as, having that full control that Andy Reid has. And Andy's always going to have the final say. And so that's why I do think that, if Matt doesn't get one of these 9 jobs, and I think there's a reasonable chance they will, but if not, I mean, half the league's looking for an offensive coordinator right now. So I think he would be ideal for another team to pick him up because he's a good coach.
One of the 2 pieces to rebuilding and reloading in a hurry, of course, is free agency. We talked about the cap issues for the Chiefs, but that'll be coming up early March. Who do you think the Chiefs have on their radar right now, both names maybe and positions?
Yeah, and some of it's still gonna play itself out to see who becomes a casualty of the salary cap around the league, because you look at some of the positions where the Chiefs have the biggest needs. I'm not sure that there's a solution at some of those places, especially as an edge rusher, pass rusher. That you're probably going to have to look to the draft a little bit more. I mean, that's an expensive position to try and fix in free agency. But, one thing the Chiefs need is they need bigger punch in the run game. They need a running back that has some explosion, because they don't have anybody on this team right now that's got that. Rashard Smith, the rookie, is probably the only guy that did have that. And I'm just not sure that they completely trust him as a every down running back. He's a little undersized, so I think that's part of the issue. But they need somebody who can run, they can catch the ball, they can give them some big plays. They just lacked that this year. So, they tried to acquire Breece Hall from the New York Jets at the trade deadline, and he's going to be a free agent. That's probably the top end of the names that you're going to be thinking about as a running back. I think there's more affordable options, too, that if they decide to go a different direction. Kenneth Gainwell's going to be a free agent. Tyler Algier. There's trade possibilities. There's a possibility that David Montgomery with the Lions might be available. There's a lot of names, and obviously Jeremiah Love, the top of the draft, is going to be mentioned there too. But if you're the Chiefs and with their line of thinking, I think they're more likely to sign a running back as a free agent to solve that problem and use that number 9 pick, if not to get an edge rusher or a pass rushing defensive tackle, then they're going to use that to move back and get more picks. So I still think that more than likely they come out of that first round with a pass rusher of some sorts. But you need to address running back. They're going to be looking at cornerback as well, especially if, Trent McDuffie, like I said, is a big decision for them to make if they're going to keep or trade Trent. And if you trade him, you certainly need more at corner. You probably need more at corner anyway. They will probably need another linebacker, especially since I don't think that Leo Chenal is going to be back. And certainly they need to rebuild that wide receiver core. They've got a couple of guys in Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, but they probably need to walk away from some veterans, and they need just an infusion, I think, of talent for sure, but size and strength as well at that wide receiver spot.
Was it ever confirmed? I know the story made the rounds that the Jets wanted a 3rd-round pick for Breece Hall. And, Ned and Art and I talk about that. That was probably one of the great mistakes that they made this season. At that time, he would have been a spark down the stretch maybe for him. And then you have a chance to lock him up with an extended, with a new contract. Do you know much about that, if that was true? And then I just think Tyler Algier, the way he runs, and there's a lot of tread left on that tire because he's been a complimentary back his entire career. It seems like he would be just a very good fit for what Kansas City looks for in a power running back, especially down in the red zone.
Yeah, and I think there's honestly, and I don't mean this as the knock it's going to come across to Isaiah Pacheco and even Kareem Hunt, because I think Kareem Hunt you'd still keep around as a potentially a a short yardage back because he is just still one of the best in the league at that. But, there's probably a half dozen, running backs that you look at that you would say would be an immediate upgrade for the Chiefs in free agency, simply because Isaiah Pacheco hasn't had that burst, since his lower leg fracture, the ankle fracture, just hasn't been the same player. So, like I said, no knock against Isaiah. I think he did everything that he can and got as much as he could out of that body, but I'm just not sure how much juice there's left, at least what the Chiefs need. I mean, and maybe in a power offense, maybe he would still be a good option. Keep thinking, hey, if he went to like back up Derrick Henry or something in Baltimore, that might be a good place for Isaiah. It's just that the Chiefs need somebody like a Damian Williams, somebody that at any moment could take one off for 75 yards for you. And I'm trying to remember the other guy you were asking about.
Oh, Breece Hall. Was that
Breece Hall? Thank you. Yes,
not giving up the third.
That was legitimate. And the funny thing is that the Chiefs really didn't want to go more than the fourth. But even if they had gone to a third, I was told that the Jets didn't really want the Chiefs third because they still thought it was going to be in the back end of the first round. They know it was going to be the ninth pick in the third. They probably would have taken that. Yeah. So maybe a miscalculation on both sides a little bit there. But I do think he's a distinct possibility. The Chiefs like him. He's probably going to be the most expensive of the running back options. And like you mentioned, there's going to be some other guys that I think are going to be more affordable that can probably be a good fit too. This team just needs more explosive. I don't think they have to have the most explosive. They don't need Saquon Barkley. They just need more than what they had this year. Because like I said, Damian Williams was not a big name free agent, yet that guy, was the running back in the number one offense in the league. They just need somebody that can be a threat because as Andy Reid said, this past season, teams did not respect the run game. And when they didn't respect the run game, it really hurt the passing game.
You mentioned Rashee Rice, and of course, the worst thing for any Chiefs fan is Rashee Rice's name coming up anywhere in the media in the offseason because it's typically not going to be good. The latest allegations of domestic abuse from his girlfriend, mother of his children, that came out here in the last week and a half. How concerned are you that Rashee Rice and the Chiefs in the NFL, he may be done, or what do you know about this situation? And how do the Chiefs move forward if all they have back really is Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, this has been a really odd situation because, again, in the era of social media, you do get these cases that pop up. The allegations there from his ex-girlfriend, she never mentioned him by name. We kind of do draw some conclusions. The Chiefs issued a statement that they were aware of it, but they didn't even mention Rashee Rice by name. You can connect the dots and have some serious concerns, and you probably should have some serious concerns. It's a very troubling allegation from the NFL standpoint with the way that they do things. Unless more comes of this, it's probably, for better or for worse, much ado about nothing. It's probably not going to affect his status on the field. Should it affect the status on the field? I think that's another debate, and it's a worthy one to have. And for the Chiefs, that debate's going to be, are you comfortable making a long-term commitment to Rashee Rice? This is his free agent year. This is his last year of his rookie contract. And, a few months ago, the Chiefs would have said, hey, if we can get a long-term deal with Rashee Rice that's team-friendly, that's got some protections in there, similar to what they did with Tyreek Hill in 2019, that's a contract that gets Rashee paid, but at the same time, protects the Chiefs that if they have to walk away at some point, that they're not on the hook for a lot of dead salary cap money. I think they would have done that. But now it's another question about his maturity and his reliability that they're going to have some concerns about. So we'll see what happens. I think this does put into jeopardy the idea that the Chiefs could get a long-term deal, maybe even want to get a long-term deal done with Rashee Rice. I know a lot of Chiefs fans that I've talked to have said, hey, they're done with him. They want to trade Rashee Rice. Well, you're not going to get any value for Rashee Rice because every other NFL team's seen the same news that you've had. So they're not going to want to give up anything for him, knowing that they're also going to have to pay him too. So you're probably stuck with Rashee Rice to see what happens. And if he has a great year, it can help you. But I still don't know what his long-term future is for sure.
And you look at the free agency market for wide receivers is coming, in March, and it's not great. It seems like the highest ranked receivers are George Pickens. You don't know if the Cowboys are going to re-sign him, and he comes with baggage seemingly everywhere he goes. And then Mike Evans, who's 32 years old and still the most consistent, steady veteran out there, but coming off an injury-plagued year and kind of fits that mold of what the Chiefs have been putting out there with your Jujus and your Hollywood Browns and guys like that. Will this free agency maybe tell us a lot more about where Rashee Rice stands in the organization by how they react?
Yeah, I think it certainly could. And like you mentioned, I mean, it's not an attractive class at the top of it. So if you're Brett Veach, you're going to have to kind of go shopping a little bit and look for those guys that are maybe just underutilized or not a great fit in their current situations. George Pickens is interesting because, I mean, honestly, the Chiefs have had 2 shots at him. I mean, they had a chance in the draft to take him. I can tell you, was not on their draft board when he was coming out because they had character concerns, and there's probably some irony there that, you look at some of the players the Chiefs taken over the years, and if they had character concerns about George Pickens, it says something.
Yeah.
And they could have acquired him in a trade. He's been available, and and they did not have any interest at that time either. So I think you're right. I mean, I would be really surprised if the Chiefs went that direction. And again, they don't have a ton of money, and once again, premium pass rushers, premium receivers, premium offensive tackles. I mean, those are the guys who make the most money, and you're going to have to overpay for in free agency. So, look into the draft. It's probably one of those solutions. But again, I think they're going to have to look for some of those guys like they've acquired in the past. Maybe what you're hoping for is this year's version of Hollywood Brown that you get more production out of.
Sure.
A guy who's undervalued that you think you can get more out of. But hey, the Chiefs haven't had a lot of success in hitting that. But I think they're also hoping that if they bring in a veteran wide receivers coach, maybe they make some changes in the offense here and there, that can help them maybe acclimate with some new receivers and kind of rebuild that group a little bit. Obviously, they've got a young core. I mean, Rice, Worthy. They're certainly hoping for more from Jalen Royals. I wouldn't be surprised if they work Rashard Smith and more at wide receiver too. I mean, they've got some options there, but the one thing you do look at that group and you're just saying that they lack is just that 6'4" guy that can go up and get a jump ball and give Mahomes a big legitimate target outside of his tight ends that he can throw the ball to and have some confidence that either he's getting it or nobody's getting it.
Think any interest at all in bringing Tyreek Hill back?
I would really be surprised. I mean, I think they could probably get over some of the things that have been said. Tyreek has had a couple of different versions of his departure from Kansas City, and none of them make the Chiefs look good. I think they could get past that. I think the bigger concerns are, one, he's coming off a very serious knee injury. So I don't know if you legitimately know what Tyreek is going to be going forward. In his 30s now, so I'm expecting that the next time we see him on the field, he's not going to be the same Tyreek Hill. And the other part of it too is that they are trying to rebuild that wide receiver room. They've got some young, impressionable guys, and I'll be honest, I don't think that they would want to be looking to Tyreek Hill as a leader in that room. I think they would want. I think they'd love to have like a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster back, even if he's a role player, just because he's a good role model on that team. But I don't think that they want somebody like Tyreek as being the role model for a young receiver group that they already feel like maybe just a little bit immature.
Are you saying that Tyreek and Rashee Rice driving around town is not a good idea? After games maybe, or
that could be a problem. And if Tyreek takes him to Miami, then that could be a real problem.
Exactly. Patrick Mahomes, a miracle worker at times, throwing with his left hand, getting out of jams. Biggest miracle I think he pulled off was having knee surgery the day after a torn ACL, which who does that? Who can get into somebody? The Chiefs can find a way. But, with Patrick, a guy that gets a high ankle sprain and plays the next week, how much are the Chiefs going to have to convince him daily, maybe hourly, to pull back the reins just a little bit, not try to get back too fast? And what kind of a timetable do you think they would be happy with? And what do you expect in terms of that timetable with Patrick?
Yeah, the right now the expectation is around 9 months, and you'll get a 1 to 2 month hedge on either side. That things go really well, maybe it's closer to 7, and maybe he's on the field at some point during training camp. Maybe he's actually ready for week 1. There's also the scenario where, if it takes longer than they expect, that he misses most, if not all of the season. I mean, it could be closer to 11 or 12 months. The Chiefs are right now, I mean, they're banking on that 9 months in the middle part, which would mean that he would probably miss maybe the first quarter of the season. That's kind of at least their projection. He missed the first 4 weeks. So they're going into this knowing that they may need to have at least a replacement starter for 4 weeks, maybe more, maybe less. But either way, you got to be ready. And you're going to be going through all of your offseason workouts, most if not all of training camp, without Patrick Mahomes. So you're going to need a veteran or two of some sort. Even during the offseason, you're going to need 4 quarterbacks outside of Mahomes just to facilitate practices. So I still wouldn't be surprised if, a couple of young guys like a Chris Oladokun are still around. Shane Buechele went back to Buffalo, but he will be available again potentially after Buffalo season is over. You could sign him back. Gardner Minshew returning is not out of the realm of idea, but you're going to need somebody else. And, hey, the Chiefs taking a flyer on a draft pick that they like, maybe the beginning of day 3 wouldn't surprise me. There's going to be probably another veteran, but I'll be honest, Scott, I mean, once again, you look at the free agents who are currently going to be available, and there's nothing attractive about that. Thinking if you're 4 weeks, you're going to play, and you're even crossing off the idea that you could even afford somebody like a Malik Willis, the backup from Green Bay that people think is going to get a big money. That's not going to happen. I have my crazy idea, which is that I think that the most brilliant, idea for everybody would be for, if Arizona parts ways with Kyler Murray to come to Kansas City, spend a year with Patrick and Andy Reid, and then cash in next year. I mean, I'm sure Kyler's going to try and cash in this year, as he should. But that would be an idea. And maybe there is, again, maybe you're going to see a cap casualty out there. Maybe there's a trade that the Chiefs can make of a quarterback that they've liked in the past that at least has a little bit of NFL experience that can come in. But you really, on the one hand, you don't want to go into the offseason with 4 quarterbacks that are brand new to your system. You don't want to go into the offseason with 4 quarterbacks, all of whom have maybe 2 or 3 years or less of NFL experience. It's how do you build that room for, the next 6 months when for sure that you're not going to have Patrick Mahomes on the field.
Let's talk about Travis Kelce. He had the look of a guy walking off the field in Vegas as a guy that was limping off into the sunset. But then you hear on his podcast a few days later, hey, if my body's ready, my mind's all ready to go. What do you expect his decision to be? Do the Chiefs want Travis Kelce back?
I don't think there's any doubt they want him back. I mean, he proved this year that he still has some juice in him. I mean, he may not be the best tight end in the league anymore, but honestly, he's still one of the top 3 or 5 tight ends in the league. I don't know. I've thought most of the season that he's probably not coming back, and the look on his face in the locker room after the loss to the Texans, he literally just sat there after we walked in for another 5 solid minutes, just staring straight forward into the ground with just 1,000-yard stare. I mean, that looked like a guy that realized that he was not going to be playing in the postseason in this final year. And he's told us consistently he's going to make that decision by the beginning of March, so the Chiefs know what he'll be doing before free agency. But with everything that he's got this offseason, he's got the wedding coming up, obviously. He's got a few other projects that he'll be doing, in his other professional life off the field. And he went through a lot of training last year to get ready for the season. I just don't think he's going to have time to do that this year. And I think I think he was planning on 25 being his last year all along. I am sure that the way the season ended, it's given him pause. It's given him some heartburn. If I'm the Chiefs and Travis comes to me on March 1st and says, yeah, I'm done, I think I'd try to convince him to wait, take your time, go get married, do your off season, come back in October and see what happens. See if Patrick's back to ready to play, see how the team is doing. And if you think you can make a difference, and just take your time. I mean, you only want Travis Kelce to retire once. I don't want to see him, do a Gronkowski where he retires 4 or 5 times. It's walk away once and make that decision once. So my gut tells me he's done, but nothing will surprise me because I do know, bottom line, that guy loves football. He loves the camaraderie. He loves the locker room. And even by March, he might change his mind and realize just how much he misses it and doesn't want to say goodbye yet.
if he is done, and even maybe if he's not, Kyle Pitts in Atlanta had kind of a career resurrection year, free agent coming up, still only 25 or 26 years old. Is he maybe too expensive for the Chiefs, or is that somebody you think they've got maybe on their notes to at least inquire about?
Yeah, that's been a guy that the Chiefs fans have coveted for years, especially when he was underperforming in Atlanta, because they just didn't seem to know how to use him. They kind of figured it out a little bit this year. Maybe they had the quarterback that finally was taking advantage of his availability. You're right; they're probably going to be more expensive than they can fit. The year that he has is going to help him get paid, and that might be too much. But that's the type of tight end you're absolutely talking about, and that's the thing. I mean, if Travis is done, I just don't necessarily see right now his replacement being on this roster. Noah Gray is a nice tight end, a nice fit for who he is, but I think over the years you've seen exactly who Noah Gray is. He is not going to all of a sudden turn into an 800-yard receiver. And they've got a couple of young guys in Jared Wiley and Jake Brainingstool who look the part, but haven't done anything yet. So you can't bank on them being the next Travis Kelce. Chances are nobody's going to be the next Travis Kelce. So that's another position for sure that they've got to circle, and they may have to reinvent what they do a little bit. I watch what the Rams do with their 3 tight end sets, and that used to be, Andy Reid's bread and butter. Nobody ran multiple tight end sets better than Andy Reid. And then you look at what Sean McVay's doing with 2 and 3 tight ends, and I think Andy Reid's got to steal some of that stuff, and a lot of it is running the football, and that's why. Aside of a detour here, but Nathan Shieldhouse, who was a former quarterback from Kansas City at Rock First, he is the kind of next wonderkin, especially coming off McVay's staff. Looks like he's certainly going to get an offensive coordinator job this year. Offensive coordinator becomes available in Kansas City. That would be a real attractive spot for a guy like that.
Absolutely. Andy Reid, getting any kind of vibes that he's nearing the end? I mean, the Mike Tomlin decision kind of, there was talk, but it really, in the end, came out of left field a little bit after 19 years. Do you think Andy Reid's looking at Tomlin and going, I'm 67 years old. Maybe I don't want to do this much longer?
He signed that extension a couple of years ago that would take him through 2029. And I think that's still the date that he's kind of circling. I mean, could he walk away earlier? He could. I know every year he seems like he's enjoying his grandkids more and more. So I think that's something that he wants to get to eventually. Honestly, I think, from just covering him over the years, I think you can also tell the age is catching up with him. I mean, he's got a little bit less bounce in the steps that he used to have and everything. So it's getting there. But, we had a conversation, the beat writers had a conversation with him in training camp a couple of years ago when that question came up. It's just as, hey, how long do you think you can go and everything? And he said he had talked to some of his peers and some guys like Belichick and some coaches that already retired and said, hey, when do you know it's time to go? When do you know it's time? And he said to a T, every single one of them said, you don't walk away when you've got your quarterback. So they're like, how can you possibly think about it while you've got Patrick Mahomes in his prime? That's your guy. You've been waiting for this your entire career. You don't walk away when you have that. And, you look at Mike Tomlin, he's walking away because he hasn't had his quarterback now for 3 or 4 years. Yeah. I get that. Lamar Jackson, maybe it's not John Harbaugh's quarterback. He might be somebody else's quarterback. So I think those actually, to me, might even just crystallize Andy's thinking in that regard of just how fortunate he is. I think he still wants to hand off the end of the Mahomes era to somebody else because I don't think he just wants it to be a break where he and Mahomes go off together. I think he wants somebody else to have a chance with Mahomes later. So I still think 29. If it becomes earlier than that, I wouldn't be stunned. But Andy Reid will choose when he goes. I don't think Andy Reid's going to get chased out of Kansas City anytime soon.
You made a great point, and we're talking Lamar Jackson. He wasn't the same Lamar Jackson this year, not nearly as mobile because of injuries. Do you worry that Mahomes can't come back and at least right off the bat be the Mahomes that created the Mahomes magic with his escapability, ability, to pick up and be the leading rusher in about half their games, it seemed like this year? Is that a concern, you think, in the organization, that he'll be a different Mahomes?
Yeah, and I haven't talked to anybody specifically in the organization about this yet, but I have worked with and talked with a couple of athletic trainers and people who've been around the team in the past. And one thing that they mentioned is that, hey, after you have an injury like this, that Patrick's going to be wearing a brace on that knee, most likely the rest of his career when he plays. And that is going to affect his mobility. It's going to affect his agility. It's going to change some things. He's not going to have the escapability that he's had before. He'll probably be a tick slower. He's not going to be able to make some of the moves that he's made. And let's face it, I mean, Patrick's not really ever been the fastest guy on the field. I think he's might be a little bit like me, Scott. I was never really fast running in a straight line, but you put me on the bases or on a football field, I ran a lot faster than I did in a 40-yard dash. And I think Patrick's kind of like that too. And some of his best elusiveness is, more about his ball fakes and his ability to just psych people out. It's not like he's got, huge ankle breaking ability, but that's going to be affected. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, how much will that affect it? Is it 10, 20%, maybe more? I don't think we're going to know for sure until he gets out there, but I do know from watching this guy now for almost 9 years, I can tell you that I'm never going to bet against him. I mean, This is the hardest working guy you're ever going to see. He's going to do his darndest to get back to where he was before. And I know he's going to attack this rehab. And you kind of asked about that earlier. I will say one thing about the rehab that's probably going to be interesting to watch is going to be how much he pushes it and how fast, because he has the team that believes that they're in charge of his rehab, but he also has his own people that he works with as trainers. And there might be a little bit of a Tom Brady thing here. I don't know who's really going to be in charge of his rehab other than he's going to be in charge of his rehab.
Yeah. Patrick. Yeah, that's the answer. Yeah.
Yes.
Great stuff, Matt, as always. Before we let you go, I wanted to talk about the weeks have passed now since the announcement the Chiefs moving to Kansas and the Dome Stadium. How would you describe the overall reaction in the Kansas City area? Positive, negative, split? What would be your assessment?
Split is probably the best way to put it. And honestly, I mean, split with a lean towards against it. And I've been kind of surprised about that. I figured that the opposition to the announcement would be more between Missouri and Kansas, Missouri not liking it, Kansas being in favor of it. Honestly, it's split a little bit differently than I thought. There's plenty of people in Kansas who think that the state gave away too much money to lure them across the state line. People who are concerned that it's just going to change things too much. I mean, from where they're talking about going, I don't think it's going to change things. But, you hear people that were talking about the fact that, hey, their commute and their drive to the stadium is going to be longer to the location in Kansas than it is to the one in Missouri, even if they live in Kansas right now. And you think about it, it's just a move of like maybe 22 miles away. It's not that big of a deal to a certain degree, but it has been very divisive. And I think part of it too is, until people see a finished product, until they see some drawings, until they see what it's going to look like and what the features are going to be, I think there's going to be a little bit of this negativity. But the change is definitely not something that anybody is really excited about. So I've been surprised. I thought that there would be at least a little bit more relief that the Chiefs have a long-term solution, that they're going to be in Kansas City for at least the next 3 decades, if not more. There's some security with this, but it's been a lot more negative than I expected.
Very good, Matt. We always appreciate your appearances on radio with us and the first time you're on the podcast. Great information. Can we do it again as we get close to the draft?
Absolutely, Scott. Anytime you guys want to, I'm always there for you.
Good deal, Matt. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, again, Hillcrest grad in the Kansas City media market, does a great job with keeping up on all things Chiefs. And this show would not be possible without our great sponsors. I want to mention them. Thompson Sales. They're located at 1555 East Independence in South Springfield. Thompsons have been in business since 1919. They are your home for the largest selection of Cadillac, Buick, and GMC cars and trucks. They've got new and used, and they've got a great service department to take care of your vehicles from start to finish. They were the dealership of the month in December across the entire state of Missouri for their efforts. And people only go to a dealership if they trust them and they love them. And that's certainly the feeling you get at Thompson's, where you get treated like family. So go see the Thompson boys, because the Thompson boys are dealing. Also, big thanks to Colton Steakhouse of Springfield. Had lunch there today, matter of fact, with my favorite old boss, and had the Puryear salad, as I like to call it. Highly recommend it. It's their Texas salad on the menu. It's got everything in it, eggs, cheese, tomatoes, onions, croutons, but get the grilled chicken added to it and then have them blacken the chicken. It's awesome. The blackened seasoning is the best in town. That's the Texas salad there at Colton Steakhouse. Colton's located 2020 East Independence, actually just down the street from Thompson's. So go in and have a great steak, barbecue, of course, lunch or dinner. The burgers are the best in town that I've had. And you get those wonderful hot rolls and the peanuts as well there at Colton Steakhouse. Go see Thomas Orr and his folks and say hi to them. They're at 2020 East Independence in Springfield. And finally, Deadeye Gun in Sparta, our latest sponsor. Went out and visited with Jonathan here a couple weeks ago. Check out the store. They're at 7483 Main Street in Sparta. You can't miss them right there on the main drag in town. You can also visit deadeyegunsupply.com to check out their selection of all things firearms, ammunition, accessories. They've got them there at Deadeye Gun. Go in and see Jonathan and his folks and tell them thanks for being a sponsor of Around the Ozark Sports Scene. It's going to do it for this week. We will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. And until then, good night.